All right, good morning, everyone. Hope all is well, and I do appreciate everyone taking the time to be on this webinar this morning, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic that has hit us. So I know as insurance agents, um, and I hate to say, in this unfortunate time, there are a lot of positives that can come out of it for us agents. And I'll say on my end, I've actually had a couple of my clients reach out to me, doing a couple of annuities and final expense policies on some clients. So, and with that said, just a little few housekeeping things. Everyone is muted. The webinar is being recorded, so we'll be able to send everyone a copy of the recording. And at the end of this recording, or at the end of this webinar, I'm going to send everyone a copy of this presentation. This presentation can actually be used for client presentations for final expense, and then you also receive top 10 questions that are asked for final expense. All right, so with that being said, let's get started here for our final expense protection. So, as you know, here's my contact information. I can be reached by my cell phone, even though we are all working from home. Just have a little pick up with my office phone, email and cell phone, best way to reach out to me. All right, so final expense. This is the primary way to protect you and your family from immediate burden of funeral expenses. Like, importantly, in this case, expense. Let's say with final expense, and there's final expense. There's simplified issue, and then there's graded issue, and then there's guaranteed issue. Now, simplified issue is a low product, generally depending on the year, starting off at $2,000. Here, let me see, is this a little bit better here? I'll try this. Like I said, been having little phone issues here. Okay. So with final expense, there's a simplified issue, no real underwriting questions. They will do a prescription check. Then there is graded policies where they'll do prescription check, and this is for folks that may have some serious health issues. And with the graded, generally, the first 2 years, there's no full death benefit. The beginning of the third year is a full death benefit. Excuse me. First year, generally, premiums plus 10%. Second year, premiums plus 10%, depending on the carrier. But the beginning of that third year after the second year, full death benefit. However, if for the graded policy, if a person passes away due to an accident, there is full death benefit. All right, so now some of the questions seniors may ask, or folks looking for final expense: what kind of expenses can I expect as part of my funeral arrangements? What are the costs involved with these, and how are they paid for? All right, so here are just a few of the expenses that are needed for funeral services: cemetery plot, casket, headstone, visitation, viewing, transportation, flowers, and embalming. And then on the flip side of it, there's the additional expenses. And there are the legal fees, pay off debts, medical bills, pay off mortgage, pay off credit cards, car, and other things that the deceased may have accumulated over the years, or debts that they accumulated over the years. Now, me personally, with final expense, folks should have either another life insurance in place to take care of those additional expenses, and then let the final expense policy take care of the funeral. So generally, folks may need no more than anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 of final expense coverage to cover the immediate expenses, and then let the other life insurance take care of the additional expenses. All right. So, how much will these items cost me and my family? So, here's just a general breakdown. I gathered this information, and it's pretty much up to date. You see, funeral director services 2,000, cemetery plot is 1,500, casket, and like saying these are just general numbers. You know, each funeral home or one of these vendors may charge something different, but this is a general cost. Casket $2,500, headstone 1,500, visitation and viewing 400, transportation, flowers, embalming, and miscellaneous. A grand total of $10,800. That's why I think 12,000, no more than $12,000 in the death benefit. Okay. So, cost of a funeral. Three important topics for every family to consider: who is responsible to pay for these expenses? What happens to the spouse that is left behind? And what are the three ways to pay for these funeral costs? And here we'll take a look at here. All right. So, who's responsible to pay? And remember, expenses must be paid before the funeral will be allowed to take place. Funds must be liquid. And then there's traditional life policies, of course, term, UL. Larger whole life policies, employer plans will take a minimum of 30 days payout. Final expense is immediate. You call the final expense carrier. Let's just, I'll use Mutual of Omaha for an example. Person passes away, you call Mutual of Omaha. They'll ask you if you have, because pretty much you'll have the death certificate. They'll ask you to fax over the death certificate, and within a day or two, you'll receive the funds from your final expense policy. Now, what happens to the spouse that is left behind? That's a very good question. So, the spouse is left behind. There's loss of income, of course. Social Security payment changes. Of course, you know, when one spouse dies, the other automatically will receive the higher of the two Social Security payments, and the lower of the two drops off. So, the surviving spouse, will not collect both Social Security. It'll be the higher of the two. All right. Then there's medical bills. In addition to loss of income, the cost of the funeral itself, there are usually end-of-life medical bills that are not covered by Medicare or Medicare supplements, and which you all know, pretty much everyone here is Medicare agent. So, yep, they know that there. So, of course, additional expenses. Pay off debts, mortgage, car, credit cards, and like I say, any expenses not covered by Medicare. Of course, legal fees, medical bills, co-pays, and deductibles, and things of that nature. Those are the additional expenses. So there's three ways to pay. So first way is checking account, savings account, credit cards, or even prepaid funeral expenses. Leave the burden to your spouse or children, which is the most undesirable way. No one wants to leave behind a legacy of debt, which creates financial strain on the remaining family members to come up with the immediate cash. And then sometimes, and I know we may have all been to funeral where funeral has taken place for 3 weeks or so because the family doesn't have the money to pay for the funeral. And then there's the final expense protection plan, which is most desirable, provides low-cost way to prepare for all the expenses associated with this in the life planning, and the final expense insurance. Now, additions to final expense protection plan, easy to apply for. There's no medical exam required. You're never canceled as long as the premiums are paid, builds cash value, and funds are set up immediately in a person's name, no waiting period. Now, no medical required, which is true. However, they do prescription checks, so they'll check the whatever type of prescriptions that you have, and for some, there are still just a few underwriting questions. Any yes, of course, you'll have to fill in why it's a yes, and then it's up to the carrier's underwritings to determine if they qualify for the plan or if they can go on over to the guaranteed issue plan that that company may offer. So, what's the benefits to your family for a person having a final expense? Gives yourself and your family peace of mind. Relieves them of this financial burden, helps cover the immediate cost of the funeral, and then reduces the emotional toll on your spouse and the rest of the family. Because that will be a trying time. Your family member passes away, and then there's no money for to get them buried. So then you see folks setting up the GoFundMe accounts and spaghetti dinners and things of that nature, which nothing wrong with that. But if folks planned out, because final expense can be quite affordable for someone. So you don't need to go out and get $20,000-$30,000, just enough to cover the basics of the funeral. All right, here we'll skip that plan because that's something that if you use this presentation, you'll be able to fill in the blanks and let your actually be more interactive with you and the clients and your prospective clients to fill in the blanks on that. Okay, additional variants. Guaranteed never to increase in price. The price stays what it is throughout the benefit period as long as the person has it. Benefit paid to you and to your family can never be lowered. Like I said, once it's a contract, once it's in place, the benefit can never be lowered. Money is protected from income tax, like all life insurance policies, and funds are made available to your family almost immediately. So, like I said, with the final expense, you call them, you let them know that such and such person passed away. They have a policy with you, and then they'll just ask to, of course, you have the other claims forms you have to fill out, and they'll ask for the death certificate, and then, like I say, funds will be issued in a couple of days. For some, funds can be sent directly to the funeral home or to whoever the beneficiary is. However, the beneficiary decides they want to do that. Some folks do have it go on directly to the funeral home, so they know that payments, monies are paid immediately. Okay, so as you can see, these plans not only benefit you, but they take care of your loved ones around you. So, like I say, there is a very big need for final expense, especially as say most of us here are Medicare agents, and that client base that you have right now, just give them a call, check on them, see what type of needs they have, and then like I say, you might want to cross-sell them some final expense. Here is my top 5 final expense carriers, and actually this is through the quoting tool that we have, and please forgive, it is a little small. I can barely read it myself, but top companies that I like and that are more cost-effective is Pekin Life Insurance, Nassau Life Insurance Company, Oxford Life, Mutual of Omaha, United of Omaha, and Transamerica. Now, these comparison quotes here, they're based off of a 65-year-old non-smoker male, and as you can see, and these are all simplified issue level policies here, level quotes. Pekin, $60.29 per month. You see Nassau, $77.54, Oxford, $77.82, and Mutual of Omaha, $79.91, and $80.37 for Transamerica. Now, what I like about Pekin Life Insurance, they offer a simplified issue as well as a guaranteed slash graded policy. Now, with their graded slash guaranteed issue policy, the only knockout question is if this person is in a nursing home or in a hospital, they wouldn't qualify for the graded guaranteed issue. But other than that, doesn't matter what the condition is, you have guaranteed issue. But of course, it still is that 2-year period where there's no full death benefit. So each carrier, has its own nuances. Like Oxford, starting age is 50 years old, and they are diabetic friendly. Mutual of Omaha generally is the go-to for everyone, but like Oxford and Pekin, like I say, Oxford is folks diabetic friendly for folks. And this is just a continuation of that. All right, and what IAD is offering, of course, lead IAD lead program for 2020 for Medicare, Sup, Medicare Advantage, Limited Medical, and then for life, every 5 apps will earn $100 lead credit, and that lead credit can, of course, use to go towards leads. Now, we are going to with the life side of it, we're just going to make this a bit more aggressive for agents. And once I have that rolled out, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to complete it since all of the madness that's been going on, but we're going to make this a little bit more aggressive for you. Okay, and I see a question. I'll get to that question in a moment here. All right. So let's see. Oh, where's that question? If you can post that question one more time, I'm sorry, and I'll get that answered for you. If not, I will pull that question up and then send you an email with that. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. What was the death benefit? Yep, the example for that was 20. Here, let's go back. $15,000 death benefit was the example that I used. All right. Are there any other questions, folks? So let me say this, and during this time while we're all at home and your clients are at home, this is actually the perfect time to reach out to your existing book of business and those prospective clients to just get a hold of them. There are several options, and all of these carriers use e-app that can be used to complete the applications. As far as folks, there is that social part of it, that social need. You can there's Zoom, a couple of free screen share and conference technologies. Zoom, Join Me, FaceTime if you're an iPhone user, and then there's Facebook Messenger with their video chat, and then Skype. Those are all excellent forms of trying to meet with your client. The question is, what's the advantage of final expense um, over prepaying a funeral? I would like to. I mean, I think that's the person's preference. You're paying for your funeral up front, which is, I mean, which is cool. And then there's the final expense, the insurance side of it. I mean, that would be for me there's no real advantage if folks go in there and want to prepay for it. I mean, that's cool. Um, but it would be at that specific funeral home, at that specific um, cemetery, which is a good thing because now you don't have your family planning for this; is already taken care of. As opposed to the final expense, the insurance side of it, your the family's going to have to go out and find funeral home, cemetery, but the funeral home will help you all of that. A lot of carriers, they do have final expense folks that will help you through that need to help set up those things. But I would think that would be the advantage over or a prepaying a funeral, is that everything is there laid out for the family. I guess if that answers your question. All right, folks. Actually, that is the end of our webinar. I want to keep it short, but definitely this presentation, we can customize it to fit your needs. We can put your logo on it, put your information on there, do whatever we can to make it more personal for you. Okay, a question. Are there writers available for inflation? No. Like I say, once final expense policy is pretty much set. So no, there isn't no writers to go with the cost of inflation. Okay. So if there aren't any other questions, I want everybody, like I said, look at your book of business, go through your book of business, look at your clients, give them a call, see if they need a final expense. Actually, check, and they may have questions about annuities as well. I know that this webinar is geared towards a final expense, but the way the market is going up and down, folks are looking for guarantees. So one way probably would be a multi-year guarantee annuity where it's flat interest rate for a certain period of time. And our job is to try to protect our clients' wealth as much as possible. So, folks, if you have any questions, like I said, give me a call on my cell or email me. We'll get this out to everybody. The presentation, the actual webinar is going to be cleaned up, put on our YouTube. The presentation, if you want it, just send me an email and with your logo information, and we'll have our folks add that on there for you, and then we'll send it on over to you. So our job is to make your jobs as simple as possible. So there's nothing else. Folks, want you to be safe and take care. Have a good day now. Bye.